Hello YouTube, this is Chance Paladin here, coming at you with another training class. Leading up into me starting my new job here in a few days, I wanted to review all these training documents as kind of a self-refresher. These are the ones that I go through, and these are the ones that I hope will help you too. So I hope you'll sit down and enjoy this one with me. This is part 6. Check out the first 5 if you haven't already. These are all on a playlist, so it should be super easy for you to do. This one I call it More Personality, Groupthink, and Attention Span. There's a couple of refreshers in here, so if you just watched, I think it's part 4, I apologize. But for those of you who haven't watched part 4, or maybe haven't watched it in a long time and think you don't need to, or whatever, I recap a little bit. So here we go. More personality, groupthink, and attention span. The agenda on this one. So more personality, a second layer of personality discussion. Groupthink, which is sort of like saying, oh, the most popular or influential person likes it. Let's all go that route so we can be quote-unquote right. Attention span, or the lack thereof, also known as knowing your audience. There's a huge attention span problem lately, and if I already lost your attention span, then oh well. Okay. Introduction. There's a second layer of personality from presentation number 4 I want to talk about. You have a core group that people are locked in at, but there's a second layer that struggle to be categorized. And I know that's kind of weird, but all these personality and strength and all these different classes and emotional intelligence and these tests that people share on Facebook, and they've been floating around for forever. What kind of this are you? What kind of that are you? I dive into that a little bit more because I think there's a second layer that isn't really talked about. And then I want to talk about groupthink, because groupthink is going to continue probably being a huge problem forever. And attention span, again. And then learning specifically the learning styles from presentation number 4. So here's the personalities. Again, this is Kelly Varilla's work that she's done. She does a lot of amazing work. Some of it, I'm not sure how 100% relevant it is, but there's also other parts of it that smack you upside the head and completely flip your world upside down. So just a quick refresher. And then the possible second layers of personalities. Talk about Myers-Briggs a little bit. Basically how there's artists, performers, visionaries, and inspirers. But there's an alternate balance of antagonistic qualities. If you watch, some cartoons or TV shows, it's basically when they look at their mirror selves and they've got beards on where they wouldn't have had beards, or, the bad ones that have beards in the alternate reality don't have beards and they're good ones. That's sort of like, it's the antithesis. I mean, these personality tests assume that everybody's good, and everybody has good intentions, but their intentions may be destroying everybody else's intentions, so to speak. So destructive instead of constructive. So Dungeons and Dragons talks about it, which is like lawful good and through chaotic evil. There's a lot of other, I guess with Star Wars it'd be like light side, dark side. They're both two sides of the same coin, so on and so forth. In politics, at least in Western politics, you've got the left and the right, and everybody who agrees and disagrees. Two different ways of getting the same thing done, but what do you lose with one, you gain with the other, and vice versa. There's no middle ground for free-thinking people. So what are all these situations missing, though? They're missing the role. They're missing why the person's driven to do what they're doing. They all have good intentions, but they don't really tell you what their intentions are. They don't tell you what drives them. And I think this is the key presentation that ties all the other presentations together, because up until now it's only told you like what, but it's never told you why. I hint at it and maybe even briefly imply it, but up until now I've never made a presentation specifically about the roles that everybody plays. I mean, obviously the auditor is playing the auditor role, and you already know what your own intention is, but you don't know whether you're an auditor or just trying to survive in a new office or corporate environment. There is a lot of what I call uncomfortable aspects of human nature. Some people are more candid than others in talking about it. I'm really uncomfortable talking about it because there's so many bad people out there. I mean, there is a lot of bad people out there. And before you just close the browser going, oh, you're being negative. No, it's reality. And if you're an auditor going to a new environment, I'm starting a new job in a few days. I mean, I'm very positive that everything's going to be okay. But there's also the very real possibility that there's going to be some challenges. I'm sure there's going to be some challenges. I mean, you can't... to assume that there's no challenges would mean that my manager has actually already managed to weed out all the negativity, or at least the deconstructive negativity, and I know that's very hard. So, a lot of managers don't even try. So, I know I'm going to work for an amazing manager, but you might not. Or, you're working for an amazing manager who's inherited half of a team from another manager that they replaced, and they may have not been allowed to clean that up, so to speak. So, think of this like role-playing and how you perceive other people, archetypes or whatever. Every hero has a villain, but every villain thinks they're a hero. And it's just... Anyway, let's move on. Here is the new role sheet that I made. This isn't copied and pasted from anywhere else. This is mine. There, see, it's mine. Copyright Chance Paladin. Okay. So, these are the roles that I see, and some of these you might see. You may think that these don't exist, but I guarantee you that they do. I've worked in companies with thousands of people. I've seen them all many times over. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Some of them are very, very, very bad. Some of them are very good. We'll talk about a couple of the middle ones, because some of these are kind of benign, I guess you could say, and maybe benign is a better word than neutral, but neutral also means they could float either way. My friend had this other one that he talked about from another super consultant. I can't remember his name. He called them lean inners or lean outers. He had something pretty close to this, but it still really didn't have intentions, from what I understand. I never got to go to the guy's class, unfortunately, but these neutral people, you see them all the time. They're probably the most common. If the positive was 10% and the damage was 10%, these neutral are like 80%. They're just either inept, completely inept, which seems to be a giant chunk of the workforce, or these days, or they're completely conflict averse. They're so easygoing to where they can't face with or deal with anything without saying chill out, calm down, take it easy. I get sick of it. Or they're completely indecisive. They cannot make decisions on their own to save their lives. Or, as we talked about in past classes, they have intentions. Hope, wish, woulda, shoulda, coulda. But they never do anything. And I put this bubble around this center area because this is where it seems like most people fall into. But hopefully, if you're watching this, you're over here somewhere, either a warden or some kind of healer. I can't imagine that there would be a lot of angels watching this, but religion aside, I don't really care what religion you are. I'm talking about people that act like the metaphorical angel. And you know how you can tell one? Is that they don't even know. They don't even know what they're doing. They're the kind of person, when you look at them, you imagine them walking around a battlefield, giving water to, like, both sides as they're dying. You know, they might not know how to heal anybody, they might not know how to fix it, but they're giving water to everybody. But they don't realize that what they're doing is particularly good. I mean, they're completely oblivious to the impact that they're having. They're just trying to do good, but they don't know that it's something good. It's really hard to explain. Healers are people like your doctors, your physicians, nurses, veterinarians, people that just sit there. They know that they're healing somebody because, I mean, they went to school for it or whatever. Wardens, you know, security officers, good people that stop bad people, you know. Then you have other ones like comforters, that person that's always on there to calm you down when you're freaking out. You know, you have your babysitters, to someone that would not necessarily just babysit your kid, but if you saw a kid running around in a store going, where's my parent, where's my parent, you know, you take it to the front of the store, to the freaking customer service area or whatever, so the kid can get taken care of. And then I put martyrs on the positive side, because sometimes you do have to stick your neck out for people, and it could get chopped off, but sometimes you've got to do it. Sometimes you do actually have to fall on the sword, so to speak. People say you don't, but sometimes you do. Somebody say you have a neck, so you can stick it out for people. And then Gel's the person that keeps everybody kind of glued together, like the tenons, so to speak. And the damage, I have inept on both neutral and damage. That's kind of funny. I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's a mistake or if I was just being funny when I wrote this, but I can't stand inept people that just refuse to get training. They refuse to actually learn anything. They just try to slide by, skate by, cruise by. I talk to my friends about these types of people all the time. They're just a waste. The villain. Do I have that spelled wrong? I don't know. No, it's spelled right. Bloggers, those are people that just habitually get in the way of everything. oh, well, you've got everybody's agreement, and they're like, well, if you look at this, it's like, no, dude, we already agreed. Parasites, those are people that just, them, they suck off everybody. Devil's advocates are sort of like blockers, except blockers will literally get in the way. Devil's advocates will just keep suggesting other stuff all day. Rumor mongers, them, they run around and say the company's falling apart like every single day or whatever. I heard the company's falling apart. Centers of the universe, you're trying to get consensus on something and they're want to talk about them the whole entire meeting. Conflict seeker, people who are deliberately, specifically disagreeing solely to cause conflict. They could also do it to get out of an argument that they're losing, and then drama queen. Snarky, sarcastic, condescending. I can think of some other words. And I see a couple people's faces when I see that word. But they basically cause unrest for their own design, basically. Let's move on. So what do you think about it? Instead of worrying about being negative or who is being positive, what I suggest is to try to recognize if they're hurting the department or not. After that, try to decide their threat level and how to react or behave. For example, it isn't uncommon for a virus, a person that's quote-unquote virus, which is, bam, right here. Oh, and aggressive. I didn't even talk about these two. Viruses are basically people that poison the whole entire department. And aggressors are people that are actively violent. People that will literally start actual physical fights in the workplace. Terrible, terrible, terrible people. I see them all the time. I've had to have a couple excused in the past because they will literally begin actual fights with people. And don't tell me that it takes two people to fight. There are people that get so angry and violent that it does not take two people to fight. It takes one person trying to defend themselves as they're getting their ass handed to them. Anyway. So, what I suggest is, instead of actively engaging these people until you learn what to do, which may never happen, but you try to figure out why they're doing what they're doing, but you have to stay very, 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 very passive and distant. Do not get wrapped up in their weird fantasy land. Do not get entangled. That's why there's spider webs everywhere. Don't get entangled in their webs. At least I think of why. That's why they're there. I don't remember, but it seems like a good thing that I put them there to remind me. Sometimes they're literally just not being challenged enough. Sometimes they're very, very, very uncomfortable. And so that's just their defense mechanism. You can pull them out of it sometimes, especially if you're like a manager. And there's better classes than this one on how to deal with conflict in the workplace. I know because I've taken a bunch of them, and it gets really murky on how to actually, like, HR-wise deal with these people. But I mean, on a personal level, when you have to work with them day to day and you cannot go the HR route, the first thing to always do is learn what you're up against. Learn the threat level. I mean, if they're walking around pouring gasoline on your building, then obviously you've got a bigger problem than if they're just fussing and fuming and inventing. But since things have gotten so extreme now, I mean, even off-the-wall comments have to really be... I say you have to take them with a grain of salt, but at the same time you have to take them with a very large grain of salt. I've heard people say bad things and then nothing happened. And then I've heard other people not say anything at all and then bad things happen. So, you can't take for granted anything, which is why you always have to be aware of who you're dealing with. If someone is just blowing off steam all the time versus somebody else who's never said anything bad before, then all of a sudden they say something just catastrophically horrible. And then you have to say, whoa, like, we don't joke about that. Like, what, you know, how are you doing? You know, find out how they're doing. I think I've said in the past, it's not uncommon to find out that somebody's having a bad day, and then to find out later that they've, like, lost a very, very close relative or pet. So you should always be actively engaging everybody. These things should not be surprising you. But when you're in a brand new department, if someone says something weird, you know, you've got to establish a baseline before you jump to any conclusions, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It just depends. It depends on where in your companies, in your departments, life. So, what am I trying to say? Lifespan that you're coming in at. If you've got a villain that's been working there for 30 years, hey, got my yogurt cat. You may, he may be ready to retire. But if you've, if you're in the interview process and somebody starts steepling his fingers and cackling that he's going to take over your department, then says he's just kidding, that's obviously you maybe need to look for some other candidates. Or if somebody comes in and it's just drama. Usually people cannot hide that very well. So it just depends on where in the lifespan of the department you're coming in. And I say lifespan of department because not every department lasts forever. You may think you've got some kind of lockdown super department, but departments roll over and combine and get moved all the time. So, anyway, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to freak you out. Okay, we spent a long time on that one, but let's hop over to groupthink for a few minutes. There's whole entire books on groupthink, really, really good books. We took classes where they made us learn about groupthink, but I actually first learned about groupthink from reading a book because I needed to get some extra credit, and one of them was meeting room techniques, and there was a tiny chapter on it, but it was really powerful. And there's lots of real life examples where people have unfortunately passed away because of it, but good lives have been lost because people refuse to have constructive criticism, and then other people in turn refuse to listen to their constructive criticism. So I'm gonna just kind of lightly brush on that because there's so much other good reading material. But basically, everything could be going fine, and then you get a certain person in the room says the exact opposite. Nobody wants to disagree with them because they're too afraid, or whatever. Or everyone may just be too tired, or they're getting tired of being accused of being disagreeable or argumentative. And then all of a sudden, apparently, you can vote the catnip out of the vending machines because that's what everyone else agreed to, according to Saki. So, I know I kind of lightly brushed over that, but it's a very brief topic with humongous consequences. So go look up if you if your if your work has training on groupthink or how to run meetings more effectively, or if training comes up on how to run meetings more effectively, definitely consider that. But just keep in mind that if all of a sudden you're having a very, very good discussion and then everybody just blindly agrees on something, that you may have a problem. However, as in before, that doesn't mean that it's okay to turn into a devil's advocate or some kind of blocker or drama queen. It just means to be aware. Be aware of the entire group saying, yeah, let's send this vehicle out in production when you know it has problems, or send the rocket out into space when you know it has problems. I mean, you have to be constructive, and sometimes you're not going to have a choice, but you document it, you run it all the way up the ladder, and you do your best to make your voice heard. So, like I said, there's more material on it. If you've got a problem with groupthink, then you're going to have to do a lot more reading on how to be persuasive and be more clear with how you're not your arguing, but how you phrase your issues and your credibility. There could be a lot of issues there. I mean, I could make like 10 presentations on just how to run meetings effectively, but I bring up groupthink because it's probably one of the most dangerous, and it seems to stem a lot of the other behavioral problems, because you'll just get one influential person that'll just steamroll every idea, and everybody will just get tired of disagreeing after a while. And then you've got basically kind of a group of yes men, and then you could have real problems after that. So I don't know. I'll just move on. I'm not sure what else to say about it. It's just there's so much written on it, so much literature already. I just wanted to include it because it's very important to me, and I think it's important to the topic, since so many other issues stem out of this one single bad behavior in meetings. I mean, I could say not being prepared, or taking phone calls in meetings or whatever, but those are just like small things in my opinion compared to this one. So back to learning styles, which is also meeting related, but it might not be meeting related. It could be training related, it could be mentoring related. I talked about graphs, charts, diagrams, and illustrations for visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, about recognizing your audience. I wanted to talk a little bit about knowing your audience and being able to hold their attention. It's important that you do your homework on who you're going to be talking to. And I didn't bring this up in the past training on this. I've been able to save myself a lot of headaches in the past from knowing who I was talking to first. And you want to try to do it in interviews too, but sometimes you can't. People have told me before that, oh, you're going in to talk to so-and-so, and they like you to be direct, or whatever, going back to, you know, the different personality types, where, you know, they tell you that you're going in to talk to a socializer, but in reality they're a team player. They tell you you're going in for a factual resource, but you find out they're an executive director, which executive directors want data, but they'll rarely go get the data themselves. And they'll be a team player when they need to be, but only usually people on their own level. Rarely does an executive director actually be a team player with people that they consider beneath them, and so on and so forth. So knowing your audience is important when you're training. It's important when you're mentoring. It's important for interviews. And just trying to do your best to do your homework. And it's kind of a weird example, but it'd be like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat or whatever, and then finding out that he's in an audience of people that are allergic to rabbits or something stupid like that. I mean, it happens all the time where people don't do their homework and they screw up. They come in and they make some kind of icebreaker joke that ends up being a huge insult. And it's vitally important that you research where you're going, who you're going to be talking to, their culture, anything they've just been through. Like, talking about the department thing again. If a department that you're going into, back to, you know, auditing, if it's had a big turnover recently, you don't want to talk about that. You know, you may need to talk to management about it, but you don't want to talk to the employees about it, because they could either be brand new, or they could be still really super nervous, or one of their best friends may have just got let go, because for whatever reason it seems like the useless people never get let go. It's always the good people. Or maybe you're talking to a useless person and their useless friend got let go. I mean, you never know. So you need to know, you need to know your audience. So let's recap this really quick. The next level of personality can be considered the role that the person is playing. Beware of groupthink. It's important to get everyone's individual and unique input. And I think the things to remember with groupthink, and the way that I am projecting the groupthink topic, is I'm assuming that you are in charge of the meeting, so that you can prevent groupthink from happening. But if you're not in charge of the meeting, you're gonna need to do more research if you're not. But if you are in charge of the meetings, it's up to you to prevent groupthink from happening. Especially if people seem to start groupthinking with you, and then you can be like, whoa, time out, guys, don't just agree with me. So, anyway, and you must know your audience prior to working with them. This will help you tailor your messages to their input styles. So, if you're going into engineering, brush up on how to talk to engineers. If you're going into IT, brush up how to talk to IT. If you're going to the shop floor, remember that talking to the shop floor is different than talking to HR, and then talking to accounting, and then talking to sales. You know, talking to the sales guys is totally different than talking to the quality guys, because quality and sales and purchasing are all completely different professional styles. So, anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy these. I love doing them. This is a great refresher for me, and I know it's a lot of stuff that everybody already knows, but I find it helpful to have this stuff all in the same place. So I hope you do too, and take care, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.